Konnichiwa, mina. Boku wa Jeremy desu. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Today we had probably what was one of, if not the, best Sailor Moon episode I have ever personally seen. And that says a lot. I've seen a lot of them. Sailor Stars is definitely still my favorite series, and I'm so excited for Crystal, especially after what we saw today. And I love the Galaxia battle in the original anime and stuff, but this one today unified everything. We finally feel like everybody's working together. The episode hit all of the emotional beats instead of glossing over them like it has in the past. And overall, it was just probably the single best Sailor Moon Crystal episode they have come out with yet, at least in my opinion. We are now into the Neptune book, number 8 of the anthology. And, of course, it is Act 36, Infinity 10, Infinite Upper Atmosphere. There are only 2 episodes left. Still no announcement, I believe, about whether or not we're getting the Dead Moon Circus arc after, like right away, or what's going on. I'm sure it'll come eventually, but right now I don't think we've heard anything about it yet. Not too many specific notes on this one. I mean, things pick up, of course, where they did last time. We have Mistress 9, they realize that is Mistress 9. She is not Hotaru anymore. And she's basically got this gigantic thing, and she is enabling Pharaoh 90 to make his appearance on Earth. And so they're standing there watching this, and then all of a sudden Mugen Gakuen just splits up the middle and opens up almost like a giant egg shell, releasing all of the diamond or whatever, and they're trying to vesselize everything. So they see that the Senshi, there's the fountain pops up, the Magus fountain that Kawari Knight was using, and the Sailor Senshi, the inners, are on it, basically, or around it, and Sailor Moon tries to get to them, but she can't, and she's basically blown backwards. Now, there's kind of a scene switch here. In the manga, it starts off with Mistress 9 talking about what's going to happen. Pharaoh 90 is going to vesselize everything, the world's going to become their second Tau star, and it actually goes into more detail, but first, we see the scene of the outer Senshi, like Neptune, talking about the tides coming out, like it's going to be a prelude to a tsunami. And then Uranus notices that the skies are getting really weird. And then it turns into Mistress 9 talking about Pharaoh 90 and all that stuff. So just a little bit of a scene switch, but it works really well. It made it more fluid, I think. The Outers decide to jump into action, and they jump on their respective buildings that they each own, I guess, or live in, that share the same last names as them, and they use their talismans. So this is probably their most powerful attack. It's like a giant dome. They all seemed like... The Outers seem to have this gigantic protection thing. Pluto and Saturn have their own, of course. Saturn has Silence Wall. Pluto has the Garnet Ball. But Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto together form this giant dome that is supposed to stop everything. And in the original anime, I believe, the inner Senshi formed a square around Mugen Academy. Anyway, so the... it goes on from there, and then Mistress 9 is trying to escape her body. She's like, oh, I don't need this human body anymore, I can be free, and then all of a sudden she can't control it because Hotaru appears. And the music, I have to say, the music is everything, and this includes the opening theme. I noted this down, I forgot to mention it. Momoiro Clovers, when they did Moon Pride, it was okay, it wasn't too bad. But going through the 3 different opening themes that we've had so far, I think it was missing Momoiro Clovers. Like, they really make this song sound epic. It sounds so much better than it did with their previous 2 singers. That's, again, personal opinion, but really I think it's great that they waited to have them do it, because it does add that more epicness, and it's towards the end of this particular season, so it works very, very well. And all the music, the mood music, the battle music, everything came together in this episode, and it has just made it everything. So, But the other thing that we're getting is the cats. They did not have Luna, Artemis, and Diana at all in this chapter of the manga, but they're in the home base at the arcade and they're watching everything, and it's just nice to have that little bit of stuff in there. So they're really taking these extra moments and involving the entire team, like everybody. And that is what makes this chapter and particular episode of Sailor Moon Crystal even more epic, because it does include everybody. Now, Mistress Nine looks frickin' freaky. Like, her eyes are bugging around. You could definitely tell that they're trying to make her look like alienated. Very, very strange, disformed. Everything is just bizarre about it, and it adds to the creepiness of it, and it really makes this episode stand out, specifically even against the previous ones with the Dead Moon family and Black Moon family, sorry, and the Queen Beryl and all that stuff, because this really, like, all the demons, they really, really disfigure and look demonic compared to the other ones, which were more human-like, I suppose, is the best way to put it. So, Sailor Moon tries using Moon Spiral Heart Attack when she realizes that Hotaru is trying to stop Mistress Nine from doing this. She notices the spirit of Hotaru, but it does nothing. It just simply does nothing. So, Mistress Nine is like, oh, fine. Hotaru is, I thought I ate this thing, this hostie, but obviously I didn't, and it's pissing me off. So she like reaches in and like starts to pull on her and stuff. But Mistress Nine decides can't use the power of the silver or the Ginzuisho, so she's like, oh, I'm gonna take the Sailor Senshi's hostie. So she reaches in and she grabs the inner Senshi's hostie, their souls basically, and eats them up. And it's really, really sad, of course. Sailor Moon's like, oh my god, what the hell? And Hotaru is like, no, I ain't having none of this shit. You are not getting them. I'm going to protect them, even if it costs me my own life, which essentially it will eventually. But she holds on to these, and Mistress Nine reaches inside of herself and grabs onto Hotaru. And she's trying to destroy her, but this is where Hotaru has this awakening moment. She realizes that there's this other her inside of her that is more of her. Like, she recalls that it, like, she even says, it is another me, but it is me, as opposed to Mistress Nine, which was inside of her before, which she said she always said, it doesn't feel like me, something else is in here, that's something, like, foreign, it's really weird. So she's starting to accept the fact that there is something else about her, which of course is that she's Sailor Saturn. She may not realize that exactly at that moment, like you do see a little bit of a form of Sailor Saturn, like she's just beginning that awakening there. But it is what gives her the strength to protect Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Chibiusa, and the Ginzuisho, so all their hostie and that. And she escapes from Mistress Nine's body. Now, this is both a good thing and a bad thing. It was Hotaru's hostie that was stopping Mistress Nine from being able to fully form into the diamond and escape the body. But because now she's physically out of the body and completely gone with the, carrying the hostie and stuff, it leaves the body basically just the vessel, where now Mistress Nine breaks out of it. But first, Hotaru is able to return all the hostie to Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus. And they realize that it was her that saved them. And then she takes off and goes back to Mamoru's apartment and gives the hostie and the Ginzuisho to Chibiusa. And they have one of the most poignant moments of the entire series so far. Hotaru finally tells Chibiusa that she loves her. I still think it's more of a friendship thing, more so than a lovers type thing. There are heavy Yuri overtones and undertones to it, but at the same time it's more a loving friendship, I believe. But it shows how deeply connected they are, that Hotaru was willing to sacrifice everything to save Chibiusa, and she does so. They have this really cute moment, but then, of course, Mistress Nine breaks out of the body, which basically starts ripping Hotaru literally apart. And so they have this really, really sad goodbye scene. In the manga, Hotaru just says, thank you, goodbye, but in the episode, she actually says, I love you. Now, Chibiusa is just beside herself with grief. She's just crying. She's like, I can't believe this sad fate is what is in store for Hotaru. And Mamoru is, he really takes on the male, the dad role, I guess, and he's going to reach out and try to help her, and then all of a sudden he pulls back, and I think he realizes that this emotion is what she needs a distraction of some sort, and that's why he asks if she could fight with the others. So she puts all of her all into it. We see her transform. She's like, you know what, I'm done crying, I'm going to do this for Hotaru, and she does. So she takes off, and she's flying, and she's like farting sparkles and stuff, you know, as you can see, kind of like a Nyan cat with rainbows, but it's like sparkles and stuff. And she's like, bye, Memo-chan, I'm just going to fart and go see the other Senshi. So she does that. And then Mamoru is like, you know, I feel like I'm getting powerful too from Chibiusa and Hotaru-chan. And so he transforms into Tuxedochan, so it's the closest thing to a transformation that we've seen for him so far. Whereas in the live action series, he did have a transformation in his special, actually. I think it was the one where it was his and Sailor V's origin story that they did, and you saw him shirtless in that one. But in this one, it's just a quick, but it's there. It's a transformation of sorts. So Chibi Moon goes to join the others, and they like right now. Our Mistress Nine is like building up and turning into this huge thing, and she wants the Ginzuisho, but Sailor Moon won't give it to her. And then another thing that's different from the manga is that the inner senshi start attacking. So I think it's kind of taking maybe from the next chapter a little bit. We see Jupiter's Coconut Cyclone, Mars' Snake Fire, Mercury's Aqua Mirage, Venus' Wing Change Sword, and they all come together kind of like Sailor Planet attack, like they did in the original series, with just the four of them, but it really does nothing. And then all of a sudden, Chibi Moon comes out of nowhere and uses Pink Sugar Heart Attack, and for the first time in the history of everything, it actually does something. And it somehow knocks Mistress Nine down. She goes like way down there, and they have this really poignant moment where Chibiusa relays the information that Hotaru has indeed died. And Sailor Moon's really upset, but Chibi Moon's like, you know what? She's in our hearts. She's going to live in our hearts forever. And that's what unifies them. It's Hotaru and her death that basically unifies everything. And Tuxedochan pops out of nowhere, and he's like, what are you guys doing? You know, this thing is going to attack and destroy the world and stuff. He's like, yes, you know, you can have your poignant moment, but we have to do this now. So he's like the focus of the group. And some would look at that maybe as being the sexist thing. I don't know. But he's basically trying to tell them, like, look, focus, let's get this done. And so they're like, okay, so Sailor Moon calls forth the Holy Grail, and she starts to gather the power of everything. And then Sailor Chibi Moon is watching this, and she's like, you know, one day I'm going to be strong just like you, Sailor Moon. In fact, I really want to do it now, because it's her conviction, her love for Hotaru, and everything, and just wanting to have that power. So all of a sudden, as the power is going into the moon, or the Holy Grail, a second one appears, and they're like, what the hell is this? And then, so the cats are watching again from the command center, so they're still a part of it. And Diana is really excited and proud of Sailor Chibi Moon, because Sailor Moon and Chibi Moon have this transformation into Super Sailor Moon and Super Sailor Chibi Moon, which is a prelude, of course, to the Dead Moon Circus arc. And so now Mistress Nine decides that, or fully awakens, and she's coming up, and she's coming in for the attack, and Sailor Moon and Chibi Moon sit there, and they look at her, and they're like, okay, let's combine our powers, let's beat this bitch. And that's what the next episode is going to be about. So, in a nutshell, that's what we're looking at here. And it was just probably the best, perfect marriage of everything that you could imagine. The music was on par. The story was fantastic. They didn't miss any emotional beats. They played them all out wonderfully. The entire family was there. Mamoru was able to grab energy from Chibiusa at the same time as her from him, and Hotaru, and the cats were involved, and the inner senshi came back, and the outers are finally fighting with everybody properly, and it worked out beautifully. So we have this fantastic piece of art is what this episode is, and I am so ecstatic. I was reading the chapter earlier, and I was not expecting what we got. Like I said, they changed a few couple of scenes, the way that they were between the manga and the episode itself, but it worked. It made it more fluid, and just everything was on par. I would love to hear your comments on it as well. Please comment down below, because this was this your favorite episode ever? Do you think there were things that could have been done better? Personally, I don't. I think it was great. The animation was pretty much on par. Friggin' Mistress Nine's face and the eyes and all that stuff was creepy as shit, which I love, and I just thought it was wonderful. So, 2 more episodes, guys. 2 more Mondays. And, of course, it'll be done by the end of June. So, the 20th, and then 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 27th. So basically right before Chibiusa and Usagi's birthday this month. We're going to get the last episode of the Infinity arc. So, Jamata Namina, have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.